This video is going to show how we design and then build a plastic part that is going to be a mirror holder for a Nexus 7 tablet. And the older version of the Nexus 7 tablet only had this front-facing camera, no rear-facing camera. So this is about the design of a mirror holder that slides and fits perfectly over the Nexus 7. And then we'll hold a mirror over the camera so that you can then point it this way at anything you want to take a photograph of. So I wanted to show a little bit about this Nexus 7 mirror holder that we are designing and we're 3D printing. So this was designed by my Uncle Frank, and then I did some design modifications, and we've been elaborating on this and improving the design over the last month or so. So the point of this is to sit on top of a Nexus 7 and provide a mirror for the front-facing camera so it can be used as a rear-facing camera. So you describe, first you have to describe a three-dimensional object. Now it looks like this is kind of like a lot of computer code over here. This is describing the actual object we're seeing on the screen on the right-hand side. This is the kind of the top-level model, the assembly, and you see what it's doing here is it's taking a base, and I can highlight that by putting this little pound sign in front of it, and you can see in red that's the base, and then we draw onto it the field of view. So this is not part of the part itself, but it's just showing us what the camera sees. There's kind of a virtual camera behind the mirror here, but this is the angle that the viewer would see here. And one of the things we were playing with was different angles of the mirror. So I can actually go change the angle of this mirror to say 45 degrees and then redraw that. You see that there's coming straight out, and that's what it looks like at just a pure 45-degree angle. But it's intersecting the base quite heavily there, and it's going to clip the view. So we adjusted it to be a 50-degree angle, and then we can remove just a little corner of the front and then and get an unobstructed field of view from this mirror adapter. And you can see the sight lines go all the way to the corners of the mirror that would be inserted here. But they don't hit the corners. And Frank said he's tested that, and that does appear to be what it's doing. Then you can look down here, then we have a mirror holder. That is the back part. Actually will be the place where you glue the mirror on, and this is just another. This is where the actual glass will fit in itself. That's where the mirror glass goes, just as an indicator. So that's how that works. And I'll show how we actually print it. So here's the actual program that comes with 3D printer, and you can see I've loaded in the mirror onto the bed of the printer. This tabletop represents what the printable area is. And this is what it looks like if it's just sitting there. Now, unfortunately, when you have a 3D printer, you can't print arbitrary shaped objects. There are some restrictions. So one of the problems is, like underneath here, you see that there's a large air space. And the printer actually won't be able to print inside of that because it deposits plastic layer by layer from the bottom, and it'll deposit stuff out here in space, and it'll fall down. So there's nothing underneath it to support it. But with this part, we've designed it so that there is another orientation you can use. And so if we actually rotate this part around, I'll first do 90 degrees like that, and then another 50 degrees, I think. And maybe that's not quite right, but I can just say lay it flat. There we go. So now when it's in this orientation, actually just move it around, you can see it'll actually print. There's no gaps here, and the printer can print a 45-degree line just fine, or this is actually maybe a little bit less than a 45 degree, but it will print okay. So this is the way we're going to print it. And then when you go to print it, you say, I want to, here's some parameters about how much resolution you want to use and how much material to use on the inside. We're going to fill the interiors with 10% honeycomb pattern. And then they give you a preview as well. So this is kind of cool, where you can see what the part will look like as it's being printed. So I print this thing called a raft underneath it, which is just like a bed of plastic that surrounds the part, and that helps it make it easy to remove from the print table, and also to hold it, but to hold it pretty rigidly. This is a long part, and sometimes it has a tendency, the plastic tendency to curl up on itself and detach from the table while it's being printed. So this raft helps with that problem. And then you can actually preview. So here you can see kind of what the print actually looks like. If you start from the bottom up, you can see it's printing the raft layers here, and then it starts printing the actual part. So this is layer by layer, each little slice horizontally across the object. The printhead will go and make each of these little slices all the way up until it lays up the entire object. Okay, now this is the actual 3D printer. It's by a company called MakerBot. It's called the Replicator II, and so you can see here it has kind of a print head, and then this is where the part will be printed. And the way it works is that it will use some plastic like this. So you have these spools of plastic filament, and you put those into the printer on the back side of the printer, and it just feeds from a spool that's back here up onto a print head, and it melts the plastic inside this print head and deposits it on the table. Okay, so now I've copied the file into the little SD card here and brought it over to the printer, and we can start printing it now. So it has to heat up the filament first. Okay, then it draws out a line of material just to make sure the printhead is flowing properly. And then it goes into the middle and it starts actually drawing in our case, it'll start creating the raft for the part that we want to build. Alright, now here's the final part that is just come out of the printer, and you see it has that raft printed underneath it, so you have to peel that away, and it's generally more or less pretty easy to come off. It sometimes sticks a little bit to the belt base. There we go. I think that came off pretty well. There's the raft part. And here's our finished mirror holder. This video is going to show how we design and then build a plastic part that is going to be a mirror holder for a Nexus 7 tablet. And the older version of the Nexus 7 tablet pointed this way at anything you want to take a photograph of. So I wanted to show a little bit about this Nexus 7 mirror holder that we are designing and we're 3D printing. So this was designed by my Uncle Frank, and then I did some design modifications, and we've been elaborating on this and improving the design over the last month or so. So the point of this is to sit on top of a Nexus 7 and provide a mirror for the front-facing camera so it can be used as a rear-facing camera. So you describe, first you have to describe a three-dimensional object. Now it looks like this is kind of like a lot of computer code over here. This is describing the object. Only had this front-facing camera, no rear-facing camera. So this is about the design of a mirror holder that slides, it fits perfectly over the Nexus 7, and then we'll hold a mirror over the camera so that you can then